I'm interrupting conversations now, aren't I? I'm sorry. Enjoy your desserts, the rest of your dinner. I'm Nikki Lorenzo. I am the evening anchor with Fox 40, and I'm so honored to be here with you tonight to honor someone that is so special. So welcome to the very first Rose Award Gala. Continue with your dessert, your wine, whatever you're having. So just want to talk about why we're here. The Rose Award is given to someone who exemplifies courage, humanitarianism in our community, someone who deeply cares. I love that. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the help back there. I appreciate it. Who deeply cares and wants to pay it forward by helping to raise awareness and funds for the Albie Aware Cancer Foundation. And with this inaugural event, we are honoring Jim Bowman. So we are going to hear more from Jim and, of course, about Jim as this goes on tonight. But we want to begin with a little information about why you're here tonight. So you've probably seen on the screen here, there's a screen over there too on your tables as well. Tonight's gala, it benefits Albie Aware Breast Cancer Foundation. So some of you might not be familiar with Albie, so we're going to play a short video to kind of share what the organization does, all of the outreach that they have in this community, and how this organization is working to save lives. So of course, from that video, you can see how many lives are touched by this and how they share their journey, and now that they're at the other side because of so many resources that they've had available to them. So we want to thank you for your support tonight and hope that you can see from that video that your donation will make an important difference to many men and women here in our community. So as you probably read on the screen, Albie Aware was named for Albie Carson. Her husband, Doug, created the foundation in her memory with the mission of helping with testing, assisting in co-pays, and really advocacy. So now I have the honor of introducing you to someone you saw in the video, Albie's son, Matthew Carson. His perspective is really an important one. Many times we hear the story of the person with breast cancer, but it's not that often that we take the time to really hear the effects the disease has on the family. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome to the stage Matt Carson.
Thank you. I first just want to say I'm really honored to be here tonight to share my mother, Albie's story. It's still to this day a very difficult and personal story for me to share, but it's also a very important one because it's what led to the creation of the Albie Aware Breast Cancer Foundation. My mother's story really begins in 1999, and that was a really special year for me and my family. I had just recently proposed to my wife, Amy, and I have a lot of special memories of being at my parents' house, planning this wedding with extended family and friends. And we just had a lot of great special memories, a lot of laughter, happiness, and it was just a really special time. But then one day I was at work and I got a call, and it was from my dad. And he said, I need you to come home tonight. We have some news we need to share with you. And I thought it was odd because normally my dad just tells me what's going on, but he said you needed to come in person. So I knew something was up. So when I arrived home, I can tell that both my mom and dad had something really important to share. And they did tell me that my mom had breast cancer. All that happiness, joy that we were experiencing just stopped. It's like the world just stopped at the moment, and I didn't know what to say, what to do. I was shocked. I remembered the first thing my mom did was she looked at me and she said, "I'm so sorry." And I said, what are you sorry about? And she said, "The last thing I want to do is put a damper or ruin your wedding." I was the type of person my mom was. She always cared about others. Obviously, all we cared about was her health. I'm very happy to say, though, that the cancer was detected at its early stages. My mom went through treatment, and she was at my wedding, and she was absolutely beautiful. One of the most important memories and happy memories I have in my life is being at the reception and seeing my mom dance, laugh, having a great time, and thinking to myself, my mom's here, she's cancer-free. And other than the day that my kids were born, by far is the happiest day of my life, and it's a memory I cherish forever. A couple years after my wedding, things were great. My wife and I were buying our first home. Many of my friends were getting married, also buying their first homes. My mom was a realtor, so she was involved in that process. And very similar to my wedding, we spent many nights at my parents' house around good food and wine and planning our starting of our lives. And it was just a very happy time. That all came to a crashing halt one day. I remember being at work and receiving a call, and it was from my wife, Amy, and she was crying. And I was very concerned, thinking there was something wrong with her. Are you okay? And she explained to me that all she could really say, actually, was, it's your mom, and you need to go to your parents' house. I didn't need to hear anything else. I already knew. The cancer must be back. I remember getting in the car, going to my parents' house, and thinking it was the longest drive of my life. I was bracing myself for what I was about ready to hear. When I arrived to my parents' house, they braced me with this news that I wasn't able to process. They informed me that my mom's cancer had returned and it spread, and they only gave her 2 years to live, even with treatment. I don't know if I can stand up here and articulate the way I felt, other than to say that I had so many emotions, from shock, anger, confusion. My mom had been going to her regular appointments with her doctors, and she was assured that she was cancer-free. So how could it come back and spread, and now she only has 2 years to live? I couldn't process it. But at that moment, I remember looking down at my mom, and she was looking up at me, and I knew she was looking to see what my expression would be on hearing this news. And I knew at that moment I had to be strong for her. And my dad was the same way. He's always very optimistic, and he said that, we were going to talk to as many doctors as we needed to. We would look at as many treatments as we needed to, and we were going to fight this. I believed that, my dad believed that, our family believed that, and we needed to believe that for my mom. But my mom had to go through some aggressive treatment, and the next 6 to 8 weeks were really hard on her. It was very difficult for me to see this incredibly strong, courageous, beautiful woman slowly begin to fade. And it was really hard to see that. But we needed to be strong for her. But because of the treatment being so aggressive, my mom did become very sick, and she got pneumonia and had to be admitted to the hospital. But I do remember at that time thinking, my mom's in a place where she's going to get the best care possible. And I was looking forward to the time when she would return home. And so during that time, I thought to myself, I want to do something for my mom, so when she got out of the hospital, I can put a smile on her face. One of the things my mom loved was to be in her backyard. And she had a little corner in the backyard where there was a tree. She had a bird feeder, and she would love to watch the hummingbirds feed. It's just something she enjoyed doing. So my mom and dad never really had these nice chairs, so I was looking really hard to find some really nice chairs, comfortable chairs, where she can go out there with my dad or anybody to come out to visit, and she can sit out there, watch the hummingbirds, and talk. This idea really excited me. Since we found out about her cancer returning, something small like this just lifts your spirit, and I really got into it. And I remember being in front of the computer and finding the perfect chairs I know she would love. And again, the phone rang. And this time it was the worst call I've ever received in my life. To this day, I don't remember who called me. I just remember the message. And the message was that your mom's condition is taking a turn for the worse and you needed to come to the hospital. She will not be coming home. I remember looking at the screen of the chairs I was ready to order and the sadness I had canceling that order. My mom would never see those chairs. She would never see her backyard. She would never see the hummingbirds again. And even though I prayed so much that I would have more than 2 years with her, I was looking forward to the time being out there with her, just talking. But now I was not going to have that time. I don't remember the drive to the hospital very well. I just remember thinking, how do you say goodbye to your mom? When I arrived at the hospital, my mom was starting to come in and out of consciousness, and we were taking turns going in, saying our goodbyes. My wife, Amy, and I did finally go in, and I remember taking my mom's hands in mine and looking down at her and thinking, these are the hands that raised me, took care of me, and protected me all those years. And now I'm here and I can't do anything for her. All I can do was tell her that she did everything right. She was the best mother a son could have, and vowed, because she always wanted to be a grandmother, that even though she would never see her grandchildren, I would vow that they would know exactly what type of woman she was. And I've kept that promise. I kissed my mom, told her I love her, and said my goodbyes. My mom passed away July 4th, 2002, and not a day goes by that I don't think about her. The year after my mom's passing was probably the most difficult year of my life, my dad's life, our family's life. There was a void there that could not be filled. It left us with a lot of questions. How did this happen? How does my mom go from being cancer-free to it returning undetected to having 2 years to live and then passing away 2 months later? We never had time to process that. Obviously, there was a lot of anger, frustration, but my dad took that anger, frustration, but also the great love he had for my mom and sought answers. He met with doctors, nurses, asked questions, did research, and learned that we needed to be our own advocate. We should have been asking more questions. We should have been finding out what scans were available to detect cancer at its early stages. And had we done that, my mom may have lived. And that's a tough pill to swallow, but we realized that even though we couldn't save my mother's life, we can help others, so you would not be in the same situation our family was. And my dad built this foundation to help others. I've seen it, and it's the best feeling in the world to see what we've done. And Dad, I just personally want to say I am proud of you for so many things, but I'm could not be more proud of what you've done with the foundation. You couldn't have honored Mom anymore. I love you. And I just want to close with one last thing. The last night in the hospital, after I said my goodbyes, I was having a real tough time. The nurse on duty who was taking care of my mom, and she was a wonderful to my mom and our family. She saw that I was struggling, and she stopped me. And she said, Matt, I just want to tell you something. Cancer is a lot of things, but there's so many things that it isn't. And she gave me this, I guess you would call it a poem. I have a copy at work. I have a copy at home. I read it every single day, and I just want to share it with you tonight. And it's entitled, What Cancer Cannot Do. Cancer is so limited. It cannot cripple love. It cannot shatter hope. It cannot corrode faith. It cannot destroy people. It cannot kill friendship. It cannot suppress memories. It cannot silence courage. It cannot invade the soul. It cannot steal eternal life. It cannot conquer the spirit. Thank you.
Wow, that was incredible. Okay, I have an announcement I was supposed to make that I forgot to. Shame on me. If you have your cell phone by you and you can turn it off, I'm sorry, I did remember though. Please do so because we're going to have a bit of a presentation and we don't want it to interfere with any of the technology. I'm on-air talent, so that's the best description of anything technical I can give you. That was my best effort to explain it as easy as possible. So, before we introduce our star tonight, I wanted to share a video with you and just a little bit of how I got to know Jim. So each year I do a special called Pink Week, and we highlight people that have gone through breast cancer, loved ones that have lost breast cancer, how it's impacted families, organizations that are helping fight this disease, and I've been doing it for 13 years. And a friend of mine, Scott Moak, who works for the Kings, when I was new to town, I said, I need a good organization. Who can I work with? And he said, you got to work with Albie. They're fantastic. And I said, okay. So I worked with Albie, and we got to meet so many women and highlight so many things people were doing. And I'd never met a man who was diagnosed with breast cancer or somebody that would be so open and share their story. And I was connected with Jim Bowman, got his address. I'm like, okay, I'm going to show up at his house with my photographer. It was in the morning. And he welcomed me in with open arms, and we were instant friends. And a 20-minute interview, I think it was like 2 hours we talked. And he shared, and we laughed, and we shed tears, and it was amazing. And he was a rock star at the station. I mean, people that I worked with were like, can we have dinner with him? Can you invite him here? We want to meet him. Can he bring the goat? Does he have the goat still? So before we honor him tonight, just want to share our conversation and how he was so open with me.